Here we have some misleading graph information. There is a worksheet linked to this that you can fill in as we go, as well as there's some questions at the end of it. Statistical graphs are sometimes used to misrepresent information and to falsely support a particular opinion or claim. If you see advertisements, be cynical and don't always assume that they're telling you things in your best interest, but rather their own. When it comes to this particular graph, it's from a newspaper clipping actually. They did a couple of things to distort the shape of the line here. Firstly, check out the dates down the bottom. We go from, I think, January 2005, July 2000, then January, then we skip to September. And even within that, the scale on the vertical axis isn't starting at 0. And all of this has an impact of making it look like the line is growing significantly steeper than perhaps what it really is. For this particular question, there are 3 misleading graphs below, and they were used by the marketing manager of a computer store to highlight the increase in sales of their notebook computers over the 5 weeks. The sales figures are actually in the table, but note what the graphing has done. So let's have a look at each graph one by one and see what's incorrect and misleading about the graph. For the first one, we're starting at 10 again. We should be starting at 0, and the scale needs to be consistent. In graph A, the vertical axis begins at 10 instead of 0, so that section of the graph between 10 and 40 has been exaggerated or stretched to give the impression that the sales have increased greatly. For the second graph here, note a couple of things. Not only is it not completely clear that you're starting at 0 or 14 or some other number because the scale is inconsistent. It goes up from 16 to 20, which is 4 units, but then 20 to 30 in the next. So that vertical axis, which is uneven, will give the false impression that the increase in sales are greater than they actually are. For graph C, you probably saw it, the 1 is not evenly spaced out. What's happened is the horizontal axis has been compressed or shrunk to make it look like the sales actually increase steeper, like the steepness of that line is significantly higher than it should be. If you draw the correct graph, you'll see a very different shape. It actually looks like that. That doesn't ring bells as far as dramatic sales. The key is to make sure that the axes are all labelled and that a ruler is used and a consistent scale is used. A misleading graph can give a wrong impression by not having a scale at all, by having an uneven scale or showing only part of the scale, or not showing the correct position on the scale. One thing to watch out is if they use shapes too, sometimes they might make a shape appear skinnier or taller or broader in a picture graph, and that really can mislead the reader as well.